So the next continent that I will discuss is the South America. So in South America, I choose the Brazil country. In Brazil, I will discuss their population, their economy and resources, political resources, and their cultural life in Brazil. So I will start in the population in Brazil. The current population of Brazil is 214,119,400 as of Sunday, August 1, 2021, based on Worldometer elaboration of the latest United Nations data. Brazil in the year of 2020, their population is estimated at 212,559,417 people at mid-year according to UN data. So as you can see, mas nitaas gyud ang population sa Brazil in the year of 2021. Brazil population is equivalent to 2.73% of the total world population. Brazil ranks number 6 in the list of the countries and dependencies by population. The population density in Brazil is 25 per kilometer square, 66 people per mile square. The total land area is 8,358,140 kilometers square, which is 3,227,095 square miles. 87.6% of the population is urban, which is 186,217,070 people in the year of 2020. So the median age in Brazil is 33.5 years. Next, Brazil economy. Income level by per capita GNI. Upper middle income. Level of development, developing. So sige paghapon develop ang economy sa Brazil. Also, economic trivia. Brazil has the largest economy in South America among of all countries in South America. Trade. Top 10 trade partners 2019. China, United States, and Argentina. Top 3 exported goods 2019, which is oil and mineral fuels, oilseeds, and ores. Top industries, which textiles, shoes, chemicals, cement. Brazil economy and resources. Services. Service industries employ many people and account for almost half of Brazil economy. Leading service industries include education, finance, healthcare, domestic service, and businesses relating to tourism. Tourists come from all over the world, especially to Manaus, Salvador, and Rio de Janeiro. Manufacturing. Brazil is a leading industrial nation in Latin America. Many foreign companies help build factories in Brazil. Although most industrial plants are owned by Brazilians. Food processing and textiles are the industrial giants. Industry is centered in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, but it's expanding rapidly in many other cities. Volta Redonda, for example, was once a tiny village. Was once a tiny village. Today, it is one of the large steelworks in Latin America. The manufacture of the automobiles, commercial vehicles, television sets, chemicals, and consumer goods is also growing rapidly in Brazil. The most serious obstacle to industrial growth is the lack of mineral fuels such as coal and the petroleum. The building of hydroelectric plants on Brazil rivers has helped provide electricity. The country is also turning to nuclear power as a source of energy. Agriculture. Agricultural products are Brazil's chief export. The nation is one among the world's leading producers of soybeans, coffee, cacao, the source of cocoa and chocolate, sugar, corn, cassava, oranges, bananas, pineapples, tobacco, and cotton. Cotton is grown in South for export and in the East to supply Brazil textile industry. Beans, rice, and cassava are grown widely for local use. Jute, used for making burlap, sacking, and twine, was introduced by Japanese immigrants. In spite of Brazil's rich agriculture, however, some foods must be imported. Brazil is now a major cattle raising nation. It exports large quantities of meat and other animals products. Hogs are also raised extensively, as are horses and other animals. The mining and forestry. Iron ore is Brazil's leading single export. Manganese, bauxite, chrome, and many other minerals are mined, and new mineral discoveries are constantly being made. Wood is cut for export and also proceeds into wood, pulp, paper, and other products. However, because of the population problems from paper manufacturing, environmentalists are debating whether limits should be placed on this industry. Fishing. Because meat, not fish, is a staple in a Brazilian diet, most fish is exported to other countries. Tuna, sardines, lobsters, and shrimp are caught in the Atlantic Oceans of Brazil's eastern coast. Energy. Brazil has some offshore oil but otherwise must import petroleum. It relies on hydroelectric energy and nuclear power. The Italpa hydroelectric power plant on the Paraná River between Brazil and Paraguay is one of the most powerful in the world. Trade. Brazil sells its product to other countries to pay for imports of fuel and lubricants, machinery, chemicals, foods, and technology. Imports some mainly from Western Europe, Japan, the United States, and Venezuela. Brazil is a partner with Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay in Mercosur, an economic common market established in 1991 that eliminated tariff barriers and made it easier for member nations to trade with one another, and many exports go to Western Europe, Japan, and the United States. Brazil supplies many kinds of raw materials and consumer goods to other Latin American countries. Communication. All major cities are linked by telephone. The country's telegraph system is being replaced by use of electronic mail. Brazil has hundreds of radio stations. The global television network is the fourth largest in the world, and many Brazilians receive cable programs by satellite from all over the world. Another, transportations in Brazil. Transportations in Brazil has always been difficult because the country is very large settlements. towns and cities are far from one another, and mountains and forests often separate them. The Great Escarpment has made the construction of roads and rails slow. When Brazilians travel long distances, they have to travel by airplanes or buses because passengers railroads are inadequate. Roads on the coast are good but crowded with traffic. Air travel links all parts of Brazil. Brazil's domestic air network has become one of the world's busiest. There are many excellent harbors that are basis centers of world trade. So the political geography in Brazil. Brazil encompasses so much of South America that it shares borders with all South American nations except the Ecuador and Chile. Brazil is divided into 26 states and a federal district. The state of Amazonas has the largest area and the most populous is Sao Paulo. The capital city of Brazil is Brasilia, a master plan city built in the late 1950s where nothing existed before in the Mato Grosso plateaus. Now millions of people reside in the federal district. The land. The Brazilian landscape is immense and complex, with interspersed spurs, rivers, wetlands, mountains, and plateaus adjoining other major features and traversing the boundaries of states and regions. Geographic regions. The Brazilian government has grouped the country's states into five large geographic and statistical units called the major regions. The Grandes Regions, which is the North-Norte, the Northeast, Nordeste, Central-West, which is Centro-Oeste, Southeast, Sudeste, and South-So. The Tropical North comprising the states of Acre, Rondônia, Amazonas, Pará, Tocantins, Roraima, and Amapá, covers more than two-fifths of Brazilian territory and includes the largest portions of Amazon rainforest and parts of the Guiana and Brazilian highlands. However, the regions accounts for limited proportions of the nation's populations and economic output. So how does Brazilian political system work? The politics of Brazil take place in a framework of a federal presidential representative democratic republic whereby the president is both head of the state and head of government and of a multi-party system. So next, we will go to the cultural life in Brazil. Language in Brazil. Language is one of the strongest elements of Brazil's national unity, with Portuguese the spoken language of nearly 100% of the population. The only exception are some members of American groups and a packet of immigrants, primarily from Japan and South Korea, who have not yet learned Portuguese. The principal families of Indian languages are Tupi, Arawak, Carib, and Gi. The difference between the Portuguese spoken in Brazil that's spoken in Portugal comparable to the differences in English spoken in the United States and that's spoken in the United Kingdom. Within Brazil, there are no dialects of Portuguese, but only moderate regional variation in accent, vocabulary, and use of personal nouns, pronouns, and verb conjugations. Variations tend to diminish as a result of mass media, especially national television networks that are viewed by the majority of Brazilians. Brazilian culture and society, religion and beliefs. Brazil is a predominantly a Roman Catholic country with an estimated 65% of the population affiliated to the religion. Catholicism beliefs and practices tend to vary throughout this vast country, particularly in rural areas where the saints of the church are honored with vow pilgrimage. When the Portuguese colonized Brazil, they brought with them the religion which met with the religious traditions of the indigenous population and those of the African slaves, thus giving way to syncretic practices in some areas. Symbolic of Brazil religion's affiliation is the colossal statue of Christ the Redeemer that stands on the summit of Mount Corcovado in Rio de Janeiro. So you can see in the picture that is the Basilica of the National Shrine of Our Lady of Aparecida is the second largest in the world after only of the Basilica of Saint Peter in Vatican City. The family. Family is of paramount importance to the Brazilian people, and grow-up children often remain with parents until they marry. Extended family members tend to keep close ties with one another, and elderly parents are looked after often, leaving one of their children. Historically, family sizes were quite large, but in recent decades people are having less children, particularly in more urban areas. Similarly, marriage was very much a religious observance and legally binding. However, in the last 4 decades, attitudes have changed and civil marriage is becoming more common. Divorce was not legalized until the 1977 due to opposition from the Catholic Church. Food. Due to the centuries of immigration, Brazilian cuisine varies throughout the regions and encompasses influences from Africa, Asia, Middle East, Italian, Spanish, American, China, and Japan. Rice and beans are diet staples coupled with spices, meat, fresh fruit, vegetables, and fish. Cosetta, which is popular in the market, contains minced chicken wrapped in a dough and molded in another deep-fried snack dish with Middle Eastern influences containing beef, garlic, onions, cinnamon, and meat mixed with bulgur wheat. Other favorite dishes include the kosha, rodizio, which is grilled meat on skewers, and moqueca de peixe, a fish stew with onions, tomatoes, garlic, coriander, cooked in coconut milk. Next, the social custom and protocol in Brazil. Dining and food. It is not unusual to be casual about timing, so being late for dinner or a party is not frowned upon. However, avoid being more than half an hour late for dinner, more than an hour for party. Brazilians dress with flair and judge others on their appearance. Casual dress is more formal than in many other countries. Always dress elegantly and err on the side of overdressing rather than underdressing. Eat with the knife in the right hand and fork in the left. After eating, place the knife and fork next to one another and do not across them. In formal dinners, remember that the eating utensils start from the outside in. The spoon and fork at the top of your plate are for the dessert. There will be separate glasses for drinking red wine or wild wine and beer. Do not place hands out of sight and keep wrists but not elbows on the table. Do not eat food with your hands, including fruits. Items such as fruits should be cut with a knife and fork. Food should always be passed to the left. The most honored guest sits at the head of the table and hosts to sit either side. If invited to a restaurant, it is normally the person who offers the invitations who pays, although it is important to make an offer to pay. Brazilians often like to spend some more than over a meal, so expect to not rush off. Taboos. Although the Brazilians are typically tolerant people, bear in mind that it is a Catholic country and raising religion in conversation, particularly if expressing any strong aesthetic view, is a definite no. The culture of Brazil is primarily Western and is derived from European Portuguese culture but presents a very diverse nature, showing that the ethnic and cultural mixing occurred in the colonial period, involving mostly indigenous people of the coastal and most accessible riverine areas, Portuguese people, and African people.